You know, usually when we talk about time, we treat it like this completely blanked canvas.
Right, like an empty container.
Exactly. We view it as this sterile box just waiting for us to fill it up with our tasks or our meetings, chores, whatever.
Yeah.
The calendar on your wall, or even on your phone, it's just a grid of identical little boxes. But I mean, let me ask you something. How often do you feel like you are just swimming entirely against the tide of time?
Oh, all the time.
Right. Like you push incredibly hard on a project, you've done all the prep, you're highly caffeinated, but absolutely nothing works.
Yeah, the internet goes down, people don't reply.
Exactly. Everything is just a total slog.
Right.
And then, I don't know, a few days later, you barely lift a finger and everything effortlessly clicks into place.
It's like magic.
The email you've been waiting for arrives, opportunities just like fall into your lap, and we usually write that off as random luck. But what if time isn't just a ticking clock?
Well, that's the big question.
Yeah. What if time is actually a moving, textured environment, like a landscape with hills and valleys, storms and clear skies that you can actually learn to read?
See, changing that framework is a profound shift in perspective. It really is.
Yeah.
It requires moving away from the Western industrial concept of time.
The flat line of seconds.
Right, the flat, straight line of identical seconds. And instead, you have to start looking at time as a complex, cyclical weather system.
A weather system. I like that.
Yeah, and if you think about it practically, just like you wouldn't go sailing in a hurricane if you had access to a meteorological map, you wouldn't try to force a massive, high-stakes life decision during a turbulent cosmic window.
If you knew how to read the signs, that is.
Exactly. Time has a quality, not just a quantity.
And I think that concept brings us to the core mission of today's deep dive. We are exploring the ultimate cosmic weather map, which is the Panchanga.
The ancient Indian almanac.
Yes, the ancient Indian almanac and timekeeping system. We are going to unpack its 5 distinct limbs. The incredibly complex, but honestly, totally fascinating calculations that make it tick.
The math is incredible.
It really is. And we'll look at how this dense, ancient Vedic knowledge can actually serve as a highly practical daily weather report for your modern life.
But I think it is crucial to establish right up front what we're actually looking at in these sources.
Yeah, we should clarify that.
Because the material we're analyzing today is not about simple fortune-telling.
No crystal balls here.
Right, and it certainly isn't the vague, one-paragraph sun sign horoscopes you might find in the back of a magazine.
Like, Geminis will find love today.
Exactly, none of that.
Yeah.
We are examining an incredibly precise astronomical and mathematical system.
Right.
We're going to explore historical records of how emperors used this system to literally run governments.
Which is just wild to me.
It is. And how ancient agrarian societies used it to predict the monsoon rains with astonishing accuracy. And of course, exactly how you can start integrating these cosmic rhythms to make better, lower friction personal decisions.
Okay, let's build this from the foundation up. Before we even open the almanac itself, I want to understand the massive library it comes from.
The Vedas.
Right. Why did the ancient sages in India put so much meticulous effort into tracking the sky? I mean, they were doing staggering calculus and geometry without modern telescopes.
Yeah, naked eye astronomy.
So what was the driving philosophy that made them look up and decide to map the entire universe?
Well, to understand the motivation, we really have to look at how this system, which is called Jyotish or Vedic astrology, fits into the broader Vedic tradition.
Okay.
In the ancient Indian texts, the Vedas are considered the ultimate repository of knowledge. They cover everything from philosophy and medicine to the literal structure of the universe.
But they're dense, right?
Incredibly dense. So to properly study and apply this knowledge, the tradition developed 6 core supporting limbs.
The Vedangas.
Yes, the Vedangas.
Yeah.
You have phonetics to pronounce the chants, grammar, etymology to understand the words, meter for the poetry, rules for rituals, and finally you have Jyotisha.
The astrology component.
Right.
Yeah.
And the source material universally refers to Jyotisha as the eyes of the Veda.
The eyes. I always find ancient metaphors fascinating because they are so deliberate.
They are very deliberate.
So why the eyes specifically? Why not the brain or the heart or, I don't know, the hands?
The metaphor is based purely on observation and illumination.
Mm-hmm.
While the other 5 limbs of Vedic philosophy deal with the unseen, the esoteric internal spiritual mechanics, the vibrations of sound.
Stuff you can't physically point to.
Yeah, exactly. Jyotisha is the limb that you can physically point to. The planets and the constellations are visible manifestations of cosmic laws.
You can literally look up and see them.
Yes, you can see Jupiter transit, you can watch the moon wane. It is the visual interface of the universe.
Wow.
And the sources note that this interface operates heavily on a foundational philosophical concept known as karma bhumi.
Karma bhumi. Okay, if I break that down, karma is action, and bhumi usually means earth or land, so the land of action.
That is the direct translation, yeah.
Yeah.
It is the idea that the physical realm we exist in right now is entirely governed by action and consequence.
Cause and effect.
Right. The present moment you are living in, the circumstances you find yourself in today, are conditioned by your past karma, your previous actions.
Okay.
And conversely, the actions you take right now, today, are actively shaping the architecture of your future.
So where does the astrology come in?
Astrology, in this context, is the mathematical science of mapping out that timeline of consequence. It basically tracks the delivery schedule of your past actions.
Okay, I have to pause you there, because this is where my modern brain really struggles.
That's fair.
If everything I'm experiencing is just a delivery schedule of past actions and it's all mapped out by mathematical predictable movements of massive planets, isn't that just the definition of fatalism?
It sounds like it,
Yeah.
initially.
Right. If the planets dictate that I am mathematically scheduled to have a terrible Tuesday, why should I even try to plan my day? Why not just stay in bed and let the bad Tuesday happen to me?
That is actually the most common philosophical hurdle people face when encountering this material.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Oh, no, it's a huge question. And the source texts address this tension between destiny and free will head-on. The framework of the Panchanga is not meant to be a fatalistic straitjacket.
Okay.
It's an optimizing tool. The text emphasizes that the true utility of astrology is to help you discern what can be changed and what cannot be changed.
So you know where to push.
Exactly. So you can stop wasting energy on the unchangeable and maximize your efforts where you actually have leverage.
Okay, that sounds good in theory, but what does that leverage actually look like? How do you separate the unchangeable from the changeable?
The sources bring in a brilliant, very grounding analogy to explain this dynamic. They ask you to imagine a cow tied to a wooden peg in the middle of a large field.
A cow tied to a peg. Got it.
So the heavy wooden peg driven deep into the ground, and the absolute length of the rope attached to it that represents your destiny, or what the texts call Pratipada karma.
Okay.
It is the fixed conditioning you are born with. There's absolutely nothing the cow can do to move that peg, and she cannot make the rope any longer than it is. That parameters is completely fixed by past actions.
Right, but wait, if I am the cow in this scenario who drove the peg into the ground, did some cosmic deity just pick a spot for me?
According to the Vedic framework, no deity picked it. Your past self drove the peg.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. The cumulative weight of your own past actions established the exact coordinate of that peg and the exact length of the rope. You are inheriting the field you cultivated.
That is a heavy thought.
It is, but here is the crucial part. The tether itself, the slack in the rope, represents free will. The cow has complete and total freedom to graze anywhere within the radius of that rope.
So the boundary is fixed, but the interior is entirely up to me.
Yes, absolutely. The cow can choose to sit lazily in the sun. She can methodically seek out the sweetest, most nutritious grass within her circle, or she can act recklessly, tangle the rope, and fall into a ditch that happened to be within her radius.
So she has choices.
The cow makes thousands of autonomous choices every single day. Destiny sets the perimeter, but free will dictates how you navigate the terrain within it.
Okay, I see the architecture now. That fundamentally changes the premise. It's less of a rigid script and more of a topography map.
Exactly.
So the Panchanga isn't predicting exactly what I'm going to do tomorrow. It's telling me where the sweet grass is and where the ditch is inside my personal radius.
You've grasped the exact mechanism. If you know your rope allows you to reach a patch of incredibly fertile, easy ground this week, you use your free will to double your efforts.
You work harder.
Right. If the Panchanga shows your rope is currently dragging through a thorny patch, you pull back. You conserve your energy. You don't try to force a massive life event when the cosmic weather in your radius is hostile.
So if we accept that we have this tether to work with, how do we actually measure the length of the rope on any given Tuesday?
That brings us to the actual instrument, the Panchanga.
Right. The word itself literally translates to 5 limbs. Pancha meaning 5, Anga meaning limbs. What are the 5 structural pillars we are looking at when we open this almanac?
We're looking at 5 continuously moving variables of time. They're calculated for every single day, blending solar and lunar mechanics. Let's walk through them sequentially.
Let's do it.
The first limb is the Vaar. This represents the 7 days of the week, from Sunday to Saturday.
This is the one that feels most familiar to a modern listener, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But in the Vedic system, they aren't just labels, right? They hold specific energetic weight.
Far more than just labels, yeah. Each day is ruled by a specific visible planet, which sets a baseline tone or frequency for the entire 24-hour period.
Okay, so Sunday is.
Sunday is ruled by the sun, representing authority and vitality. Monday is the moon, dealing with the mind and the public.
Makes sense. Moon day.
Exactly. Tuesday is Mars, the planet of conflict, energy, and engineering. Wednesday is Mercury, the planet of intellect, commerce, and communication.
Yeah.
Thursday is Jupiter, representing wisdom and expansion. Friday is Venus, governing art, pleasure, and diplomacy. And Saturday is ruled by Saturn, the planet of delay, hard work, and structure.
So the Vaar is like the background music playing for the day. If it's a Mars day, the music is aggressive and fast. If it's a Venus day, it's harmonious.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, what's the second limb?
The second limb is the Tithi. These are the lunar days. A complete lunar month is divided into 30 typhus.
30. Okay.
15 of them occur during the waxing phase, from the new moon, known as Amavasya, building up to the full moon, Purnima. And the other 15 occur during the waning phase, shrinking back down to the new moon.
But a lunar day isn't the same as a solar day, is it? If I look at a standard clock, a day is exactly 24 hours, midnight to midnight. How does a Tithi function?
It functions through pure geometry, which is why it constantly shifts against our modern clocks.
Okay, I'm trying to picture this.
A Tithi is strictly defined as the time it takes for the longitudinal angle between the sun and the moon to increase by exactly 12 degrees.
12 degrees.
Right. Because the moon's speed varies depending on its elliptical orbit. Sometimes it moves faster, sometimes slower. The time it takes to create that 12-degree gap fluctuates.
Yeah, I see.
Therefore, a single Tithi might last 20 hours, or it might stretch to 26 hours. A Tithi can start at 2:14 p.m. on a Tuesday and end at 1:10 p.m. on Wednesday.
That is wild.
It is a completely organic rhythm that breathes based on the actual physical relationship between the luminaries in the sky. It completely ignores the artificial borders of midnight.
That is fascinating. It tracks the actual shifting light in the sky rather than the gears of a mechanical clock. Okay, so we have the solar day and the lunar day. What is the third limb?
The third is perhaps the most critical for personal, highly customized application. It's the Nakshatra.
The Nakshatra.
These are the 27 lunar constellations or star mansions. To understand the mechanism, picture the entire 360-degree belt of the zodiac in the sky.
Okay, I've got the circle in my head.
The ancient Indian astronomers divided that massive 360-degree circle into 27 equal, highly specific segments.
Let me do the math on that real quick. 360 divided by 27. That's exactly 13.33 degrees. So 13 degrees and 20 minutes for each segment.
Exactly right. 13 degrees and 20 minutes. And the reason they chose the number 27 is because it takes the moon roughly 27.3 days to complete a full orbit around the Earth.
Ah, the orbital period.
So on average, the moon takes exactly 1 day to traverse a single 13-degree and 20-minute nakshatra.
So it's like the moon is staying in a different hotel room every night for a month, and there are 27 rooms in the building.
That is a perfect analogy, and each of those 27 rooms has a distinct character, a ruling deity, a symbol, and a specific energetic footprint. Wherever the moon was transiting, which exact room it was sitting in at the exact moment you took your first breath, that is your Janma Nakshatra, your birth star.
And this is where the source material gets incredibly practical for the listener. Because knowing your birth star isn't just a fun personality quiz.
Not at all.
It creates a deeply personalized daily rhythm for your entire month. The sources point out a highly specific formula here. Once you know your birth nakshatra, you can map out your personal danger zones on the calendar.
Yes, the hazard map.
The text notes that the 3rd, 5th, and 7th constellations, counted sequentially from the one you were born under, give distinctly adverse results.
Yeah, the system actually names these hazard zones, so you really can't ignore them. If you count from your birth star, the 3rd star is called Vipata, which implies sudden danger or emergency.
Yikes.
The 5th star is Pachari, which translates to obstacle or enemy, a day where you will face severe friction or opposition. And the 7th star is Vada, which translates to destruction, severe harm, or cancellation.
Destruction, that is intense.
Very. When the moon transits these specific constellations during the month, your personal cosmic weather is stormy, regardless of what anyone else is experiencing.
I want to make sure I understand the mechanism here. Why those specific intervals? Does the moon's angle at the seventh star create some sort of gravitational or psychological tension?
The mechanism is rooted in angular resonance. The ancient texts propose that the geometry of those specific angles from your natal moon position creates dissonance in your psychological and physiological field.
Dissonance.
Right. The moon rules the mind and the emotional waters of the body. When it hits the seventh nakshatra from its starting point, the specific frequency it reflects acts as static interference to your baseline state.
Like radio static.
Exactly. You become reactive, your judgment clouds, and you attract friction.
So to translate this for a beginner, if I just go online, calculate my birth nakshatra, I can literally look at a Panchanga calendar, count down the list, and pinpoint exactly which 3 days of the upcoming month I should absolutely avoid scheduling massive high-stress meetings.
That's exactly it.
It's like having a personalized hazard map for the month.
That is precisely the intention. If you know the moon is entering your Vada star, your seventh star of destruction, that is not the day to launch a new business, sign a massive mortgage, or confront your boss.
Definitely not.
No. That is a day to lay low, do administrative, routine work, and perhaps engage in some quiet reflection. You use the map to walk around the ditch rather than falling into it.
Okay, that is incredibly actionable. So we have Vaar, the day of the week, Tithi, the lunar day, and Nakshatra, the constellation. What are the final two limbs? They seem a bit more microscopic.
They are indeed micromeasurements used for extreme precision. The fourth limb is the Karana.
Karana.
A Karana is mathematically defined as exactly half of a Tithi. So if a Tithi represents a 12-degree separation between the sun and moon, a Karana is a 6-degree separation.
Okay, doing the math, there are 60 Karanas in a complete lunar month.
Spot on. 4 of them are fixed to specific, usually in auspicious times, and the other 7 repeat in a continuous cyclic order.
But why do we need to chop the lunar day in half? Is the Tithi not precise enough?
Think of it like zooming in on a map. A Tithi tells you the general flavor of the day. But if you need to time a medical procedure or initiate a sacred ritual, you need a finer instrument.
I get it.
The first half of a lunar day might be stable, but the second half, the second Karana, might introduce volatility. It allows for timing down to a specific few hours.
Okay, zooming in. And the fifth limb?
The fifth limb is the yoga. Now, this is not the physical stretching exercise we do in the West.
No downward dog.
Right. In the Panchanga, yoga means union or combination. There are 27 yogas, and this is where the math gets incredibly elegant.
So?
A yoga is calculated by taking the exact longitude of the sun, adding the exact longitude of the moon, and dividing that sum by 13 degrees in 20 minutes.
Wait, you are physically adding the coordinates of the sun and the moon together to create a new abstract coordinate? What does that actually do?
It measures the combined magnetic or gravitational influence of the two most powerful luminaries. The sun represents the soul and vitality. The moon represents the mind and receptive energy.
Okay.
By algebraically combining their positions, the ancient astronomers derived 27 specific conditions that range from extremely auspicious, like Siddhi, which means success, or Ayushman, which means longevity.
And the bad ones.
Highly destructive conditions like Pratipada, which implies calamity,
Sure.
or Shula, which means pain or spear. It's the final synthesis of the daily cosmic weather.
So the Panchanga is taking all 5 of these moving parts, the day, the moon phase, the constellation, the half phase, and the combined longitude, tracking them simultaneously and printing out a daily diagnostic report.
It is an immense amount of data.
That is an astonishing amount of variables to manage. But here's the thing that always melts my brain when we talk about ancient calendars.
The solar-lunar gap.
Yes. You have the sun, which gives us a solar year of roughly 365 days, and you have the moon, which operates on a cycle that results in a lunar year of about 354 days. There's a glaring 11-day mismatch there.
A very problematic mismatch.
If you only follow the moon, your calendar's going to drift. After a decade, your winter is going to fall in July. How didn't this entire civilization's calendar just collapse into chaos?
It is a massive astronomical problem.
Yeah.
And their solution requires ingenious mathematical reconciliation. They didn't just ignore the sun to follow the moon, they forced the two to synchronize.
How?
To understand how they did it, we have to look at their macro cycles. The entire system operates on a massive 60-year lunisolar cycle called the Samvatsara.
60 years? Why not 100, like a century?
Because 60 is the lowest common multiple of the orbital periods of Jupiter, which is roughly 12 years, and Saturn, which is roughly 30 years.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
The cycle tracks the two slowest, most impactful planets. This 60-year wheel is deeply philosophical. It is divided into 3 distinct blocks of 20 years each.
Okay, what are the blocks?
The first 20 years are overseen by the energy of Brahma, the creator, a period of innovation and building. The next 20 are ruled by Vishnu, the nurturer, a period of maintenance and establishment.
And the last 20?
The final 20 by Rudra, the cleanser or destroyer, a period of dissolution and clearing the ground for the next cycle. Every single year within this 60-year, Samvatsara has a specific name and predicted geopolitical characteristics.
That gives a fascinating historical rhythm, but it still doesn't fix the 11-day gap between the sun and the moon?
No, it doesn't. The mechanical fix for the 11-day gap is the concept of Atika Masa, or the intercalary month, the leap month.
A leap month, like leap year, but a whole month.
Exactly. To prevent the lunar calendar from tearing away from the solar seasons, an extra month is inserted roughly every 2.5 to 3 years. But it isn't just randomly tossed in by an emperor.
There's a rule.
The rule is astronomically rigid. If 2 completely new moons fall within a single solar month, that lunar month duplicates.
Let me make sure I'm visualizing this correctly. A solar month is the time it takes the sun to transit through one 30-degree zodiac sign, like Cancer or Leo.
Right.
That takes about 30 or 31 days. A lunar month is the time between 2 new moons, which is about 29.5 days.
You're with me.
So occasionally, because the lunar month is slightly faster, you will get a new moon right at the beginning of the sun's transit and another new moon right at the end of the sun's transit.
You visualize the exact mechanism. When that rare overlap happens, the calendar hits pause. You end up with 2 consecutive lunar months bearing the exact same name.
2 of the same month.
Yes. The first one is considered the Atika, the extra or impure month. During this extra month, all worldly activities, weddings, and massive material endeavors are prohibited.
Oh, so everything shuts down.
Practically, yes.
Yeah.
It is dedicated entirely to spiritual pursuits, charity, fasting, and internal reflection. Once that extra month finishes, the second pure month begins, and worldly festivals and normal activities resume. It elegantly forces the fast-moving lunar calendar to snap back like a rubber band into perfect alignment with the slow-moving solar seasons.
It's like a self-correcting clock that uses a month of mandatory meditation to fix its gears. That is brilliant. Speaking of the sun, the sources also talk about how the year is split based on the sun's actual physical trajectory, right? The ayana.
Yes, the ayana refers to the apparent declination or motion of the sun from the perspective of Earth. For 6 months, the sun appears to move northward. This is called Uttarayana, starting around the winter solstice in late December.
Okay.
The texts poetically call this the Day of the Gods. It is generally considered highly auspicious, a time of growing light, expanding consciousness, and outward material energy.
Makes sense. The days are getting longer.
Then, for the next 6 months, beginning around the summer solstice, the sun begins its apparent journey southward, Dakshinayana. This is the night of the gods.
So the energy shifts from expansion to contraction.
Exactly. It is a period aligned with going inward, with the heavy monsoon rainfall, and with the completion of cycles rather than the initiation of new ones. And nested within these 2 grand halves of the year are the 6 traditional Indian seasons, or Ritu, which dictate agriculture, diet, and daily routine.
Okay, so we're talking about incredibly vast macro cycles, 60-year planetary alignments, leap months based on intersecting solar and lunar orbits, the shifting tilt of the Earth's axis. It sounds completely overwhelming.
It is a lot of math.
It sounds like you need a supercomputer or a team of scientists to track this. But the source material provides a beautiful counterexample to that complexity. It highlights the sheer mathematical accessibility of the system, formulated by an astrologer named Sri Bharavara.
A brilliant man.
He created a method to find the exact day of the week, the Vaar, for literally any date in history, using nothing but basic elementary arithmetic.
It is a remarkable piece of mental math that completely bypasses the need for complex ephemeris tables or astronomical charts. He essentially built a manual algorithm.
How does it work?
He assigned specific constant numerical values to the months of the Gregorian calendar. January is 1, February is 4, March is 4, April is 0, and so on. And from there, he derived a simple 6-step formula to calculate the day.
I want to actually walk through this right now live because when I read this in the source, I was sitting at my desk doing it on a scratch pad and it felt like magic.
It really does. Let's test the algorithm. Walk us through the steps.
Okay, I'm literally looking at my notes. Let's do the example provided in the text. August 15th, 1947, India's Independence Day. Let's prove what day of the week that was without using our phones.
Go for it. Step 1.
Step 1. You take the last 2 digits of the year in question. So for 1947, we write down 47. Step 2. Divide that number by 4 to find the quotient. Okay, 47 divided by 4. Well, 4 times 11 is 44, so it's 11.75. What do I do with the decimal?
You drop it completely. The system only cares about whole integers to account for leap years.
Yep.
You only keep the 11.
Got it. Dropping the decimal. So we have 11. Step 3. Add those 2 numbers together. 47 plus 11 equals 58. Step 4. Add the actual calendar date we were looking for. We were looking at August 15th, so 58 plus 15. Hang on, that's 73. Am I with you so far?
The math is perfectly sound. 73. Now you need to apply the specific month constant.
Right. Step 5. I'm looking at the table in the text, and it says the constant assigned to August is 3. So I take my running total of 73, add the constant 3, and I get 76.
Almost there.
And the final step, step 6. Divide that total by 7, because there are 7 days in a week. Okay, 76 divided by 7 is 10, which gives me 70, leaving a remainder of 6.
Okay.
The remainder is the key, right?
Yes. You map the remainder to the days of the week, starting with Sunday as 1.
Okay, so 1 is Sunday, 2 is Monday, 3 is Tuesday, 4 is Wednesday, 5 is Thursday, and 6 lands perfectly on Friday. August 15th, 1947 was a Friday. The math works perfectly.
It is a flawless calculation. And what is profoundly beautiful about this is that it demonstrates how this knowledge, despite its cosmic origins, was meant to be accessible.
You don't need an app.
You didn't need to be an elite scholar locked in an observatory. With a few memorized constants and third-grade division, anyone could instantly connect with the physical mechanics behind the calendar. It demystifies time.
It totally grounds you in the math of time.
Sure.
So we've done the math, we know the 5 limbs, we understand the cycles. But what does this actually look like in heavy practice? How do people use this to organize human behavior?
That's where history gets fascinating.
Let's look at the historical records, because if emperors were using this exact system to conquer territories and manage millions of people, we can probably use it to conquer our weekly to-do list.
To see this applied at the absolute highest level of statecraft, we look at the Mughal administration, specifically the reign of the Emperor Humayun in the 16th century.
Okay.
The source material details how he didn't just casually consult an astrologer before a battle. He structured the entire executive branch of his government, the actual ministries, around the framework of the Panchanga, specifically utilizing astrological elements, the tatwas, and planetary rulerships.
He literally divided his presidential cabinet by the classical elements: fire, air, water, earth. How did that function logistically?
It was a system of extreme elemental alignment. For example, he created the Achi, or the fire department. This ministry was tasked with managing weapons, the military, artillery, and armor.
Makes sense for fire.
Humayun understood the astrological principle that the element of fire aligns with the planets Mars and the Sun. Therefore, he decreed by law that this specific department would only conduct its major executive operations and inspections on Sundays ruled by the Sun and Tuesdays ruled by Mars.
That is dedication.
To enforce this alignment, he would actually wear red clothing on those days to physically match the martial, fiery energy.
That is wild. He is color coordinating his imperial wardrobe to match the martial energy of the planet ruling the specific day he's out inspecting his cannons. That is a level of intentionality we just don't have anymore. What about the other elements?
He established the Hawaii, or Air Department, which managed the stables, transportation, and the royal kitchens. He created the Abi, or Water Department, to manage the canals, agriculture, and the royal syrups and cellars.
And Earth.
Earth was tied to buildings and agriculture as well. But perhaps the most fascinating application of this cosmic scheduling was how he managed his public relations and royal decrees.
Oh, how did he do that?
On Mondays, which are ruled by the moon, and Wednesdays ruled by Mercury, he held what was called the Ihale Murad.
The fulfilling of desires.
Exactly. These specific days were dedicated to his special subjects. He would sit, fulfill their wishes, grant pardons, listen to poetry, and be entertained by music.
Because of the planets.
And the logic is entirely astrological. The moon represents beauty, the mind, receptive energy, and the public. Mercury represents communication, intellect, and commerce.
Ah, soft energy.
Right. He aligned the pleasant, yielding intellectual nature of those planets with the act of granting favors. He understood a fundamental rule of the Panchanga. You do not issue harsh military decrees on a soft Monday, and you do not hold a delicate poetry reading on an aggressive Tuesday.
You match the human action to the cosmic weather of the day. So let's pull Humayun's blueprint out of the 16th century and apply it directly to the listener's life today. You don't need a sprawling empire to use this framework.
Absolutely not.
A beginner can start by simply aligning their modern work week to the Vaar, the planetary days of the week, just like Humayun did.
It is, without a doubt, the easiest and most effective entry point into Vedic time management. It requires no complex calculations.
So let's map it out. If it is Tuesday, the day of Mars, the planet of courage, conflict, engineering, and fire, that is the day you schedule your aggressive, courage-requiring tasks.
Yes.
That's the day you negotiate the tough contract, confront a lingering issue with a difficult contractor, or finally ask your boss for a raise. You use the martial energy, you sail with the wind of Mars.
And on Wednesday?
If it is Wednesday, the day of Mercury, the planet of intellect and exchange, that is when you schedule your creative brainstorms, your networking lunches, your podcast recordings, your heavy writing tasks. You don't waste a Mars day on delicate diplomacy, and you don't use a Mercury day to go to war.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is fundamentally about reducing friction.
Yeah.
You are no longer swimming against the tide of time, you are using the current to accelerate your efforts.
Yeah.
But the historical application of the Panchanga goes far beyond just scheduling meetings or managing a government. The sources reveal that this system was deeply, inextricably tied to physical survival through the practice of astrometeorology.
Astrometeorology.
Ancient agrarian societies didn't just use this to plan their week, they used the Panchanga to predict the entire agricultural year.
Right, the Rohini Yoga. When I read this section of the source material, I was stunned by the methodology. Break down how they predicted the weather.
It was a practice of hyper-focused observation based on a highly specific cosmic window. During the lunar month of Ashta, which usually falls around late June or early July, they didn't just look at the sky every day.
They waited for a trigger.
They waited for the exact day, the exact Tithi, when the moon entered the Rohini Nakshatra. This specific intersection of time is considered a defining atmospheric trigger.
Okay.
During the daylight hours of this single specific day, ancient meteorologists and farmers would stand outside and meticulously observe their physical environment.
They predicted the entire season based on one day.
Just on that one day, they divided the daylight hours into 4 parts, or praharas, of roughly 3 hours each. The atmospheric observations made in the first 3 hours mathematically predicted the rainfall for the first month of the upcoming monsoon.
You're kidding.
I'm not. The observations in the second 3 hours predicted the second month, and so on. They monitored the direction of the wind, the speed of the gales. They analyzed the shape, color, and apparent water-bearing density of the clouds.
What were they looking for specifically?
The texts dictate that if the wind on that specific day was sweet-smelling, of moderate strength, and blowing from the east or the north, it guaranteed excellent, nourishing rain for the next 4 months.
And if it wasn't?
However, if the wind blew strongly and harshly from the southeast or the southwest, or if the sky was completely devoid of clouds during the Rohini transit, it was a terrifying indicator. It meant drought, obstruction, or highly destructive weather that would ruin the crops.
But they weren't just looking up at the clouds, right? The text mentions they ran physical, biological experiments on the ground on that exact day to test the theory.
Yes, the methodology was remarkably empirical. The texts detail how, on this very special day of Rohini Yoga, they would take seeds of their primary crops and sow them in abhimantrit, which means consecrated or purified earthen pots.
Like a control group.
Exactly. Over the following days, they would watch how quickly those specific seedlings sprouted. They monitored the color of the sprout, its structural integrity, its vibrancy. The physical vitality of the seedling in that test pot, planted during that specific cosmic window, predicted the genetic quality and yield quantity of the entire crop for the region that year.
I love that detail so much because it completely dismantles the idea that the Panchanga is some abstract, woo-woo, purely intellectual concept floating in the ether.
It is intensely physical.
It is a deeply grounding physical tool. It forces you to step outside your house, to observe the smell of the wind, to look at the density of the clouds, to literally plant a seed in the dirt and watch it grow. It reconnects human beings with their immediate physical environment.
Yes, it does.
It essentially says, look up at the sky, look down at the soil. You are a localized sensor in this massive biological machine.
And it forces us to recognize a lost art of attention. Modern science, with all of its satellite imagery, supercomputers, and algorithmic models, still frequently struggles with accurate, long-range forecasting of the Indian monsoon.
Yeah, weather is notoriously hard to predict.
Yet the ancient sages, using this localized, highly focused observation of cosmic timing, could predict the agricultural viability of an entire season. It demands a level of mindfulness and deep presence in nature that we have largely abandoned in the modern, climate-controlled era.
So we have talked extensively about weekly routines, managing your Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and yearly agricultural weather. That covers the day-to-day maintenance of life. But what about the massive, high-stakes pivot points?
The big life events.
The decisions that permanently alter your trajectory. Marriages, launching a massive new enterprise, buying a home. How does the complexity of the Panchanga scale up to handle the really big stuff?
When the stakes are at their absolute highest, we enter the realm of two highly specialized applications. Muhurta, the science of finding the auspicious moment, and rigorous horoscope matching.
Okay, let's talk about matching.
When you are establishing a foundation meant to last a lifetime, the calculations become incredibly granular. Let's look at marriage, which in the Vedic tradition is considered a profound karmic bond that merges two destinies, not just a social or legal contract.
Right.
To mathematically determine compatibility, the Panchanga uses the Ashta-Koota system.
The eightfold test. I was fascinated by the mechanics of how this scores compatibility. It totals 36 possible points, right? And the rule is you need at least 18 points passing to even consider the match acceptable, with 22 or more being considered excellent.
That's the baseline, yes.
But the way the system weights the points is what really caught my attention. It is not an egalitarian distribution.
Precisely. The weighting system is a profound psychological document. It reveals exactly what the ancient minds valued most in a lifelong partnership and what they considered superficial.
Break down the weights for me.
Let's look at the actual numbers. The lowest score, worth only one single point out of 36, is Varna, which indicates the degree of mutual spiritual development or baseline work ethic.
1 point.
Okay. The second category, Varsha, measures natural mutual attraction, magnetism, or power dynamics between the couple. It is worth only 2 points. Tara, which represents the fortune, luck, or daily ease one partner brings to the other, is worth 3 points.
Wait, let me stop you right there. Things like spiritual alignment, physical magnetism and attraction, and whether or not we are lucky together. I mean, in modern Western dating, those are usually the top 3 non-negotiable things people look for.
They are the absolute priority today.
Are we physically attracted to each other? Do we share the same values? Do we have fun together? The Panchanga says, sure, that's nice to have, but that combined is only 6 points out of 36. What carries the actual heavyweight?
The system recognizes that initial attraction and shared hobbies fade. They always do. The heavyweight is placed almost entirely on deep foundational, biological, and psychological stability. The final 3 categories account for 21 out of the 36 points. You have Ghana, worth 6 points, which is temperamental compatibility. It tests how your core instinctual natures interact under severe stress. Will you destroy each other in a crisis or support each other?
Good to know before you sign the papers.
Exactly. Bakut, worth 7 points, represents the overall emotional flow, the absence of daily friction, and the capacity for mutual wealth creation. And finally, the absolute highest weight, the make-or-break category worth 8 points, is Nadi.
Nadi. The source describes Nadi as biological and physiological compatibility. It mentions genetics. I have to push back hard on this.
I expect you to.
How can the mathematical position of a planet when I was born dictate my genetics, my pulse, or my biological health with a partner? That sounds like a massive leap in logic from astronomy to biology.
It is a leap if you view biology and astronomy as separate disciplines, which modern science completely does. But the Vedic framework operates on the principle of macrocosm and microcosm. As above, so below.
Okay, unpack that.
The texts argue that the specific planetary geometry at the exact moment of your birth leaves an energetic imprint on your nervous system and your physiological constitution. Specifically, the 3 doshas of Ayurveda, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha.
The body types.
Right. Nadi essentially measures whether the nervous systems and energetic pulses of the 2 individuals are harmonic or dissonant.
So it's testing if our literal nervous systems will reject each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
If the Nadi is flawed, if the couple shares the exact same primary subtle energy type, it creates a repelling force, much like pushing the 2 positive ends of a magnet together.
That makes sense.
It carries a severe penalty in the matching system, known as Nadi dosha. because the tradition dictates that a marriage cannot sustain itself, nor can it produce vitally healthy offspring without a baseline foundation of physiological and energetic polarity.
They need opposites.
Exactly. The ancients recognized that while physical attraction initiates a bond, temperamental clashes and physiological stress will actively, methodically destroy a partnership over the span of decades.
It is an incredibly pragmatic, almost ruthless way to look at love. It prioritizes survival and stability over romance. So let's say a couple runs the math. They pass the 36-point test. They've got 28 points. The naughty polarity is great. Their temperaments align perfectly under stress. Now they have to actually schedule the wedding ceremony.
The Shuha Muhurta.
They need a Shubha Muhurta. They need the perfect time. But looking at the source material, finding the perfect time seems mathematically impossible. It sounds like trying to thread a needle in the dark during an earthquake.
It is arguably the most complex and frustrating application of Jyotisha. When picking a muhurta, the Panchanga lists 10 specific doshas or cosmic flaws that must be actively avoided.
10 flaws.
You have to ensure the lunar day is stable, the constellation is favorable, the planetary hours are clean. You have to dodge flaws like Lada, which is described as the energetic kick of a planet disrupting the day.
A planetary kick?
Yes. You have to avoid Pata, which is an atmospheric fall or disruption. You avoid Uti, which is a harmful conjunction where planets are too close together and burn each other out. But the most insidious and complex obstacle is the concept of Veda.
Veda. The source translates this as obstruction. This is where the mechanics get incredibly three-dimensional. Break down exactly how Veda works, because it sounds like a cosmic trap.
Veda is a principle of planetary transits. It is the realization that no planet operates in a vacuum. Let's say you are looking at your chart and you see a highly beneficial transit approaching.
Okay, good transit.
Jupiter, the planet of massive expansion, wealth, and grace, is moving into a house in your chart that is mathematically promised to bring you incredible luck, a financial windfall, or a successful marriage. You see it coming on the calendar, you are thrilled, you plan your massive event for that exact day.
Sounds great. I've done the math. Jupiter is in the right spot. I'm ready for my windfall.
However, the classical texts, specifically referencing manuals like the Narada Purana and the Phala, describe that every single beneficial transit has a corresponding geometrically linked Veda point.
An obstruction point.
An obstruction point, located somewhere else in the zodiac. It is a specific trigger wire. If, at the exact same time Jupiter moves into that lucky house to deliver your windfall, another planet, say a slow, heavy malefic like Saturn, or an aggressive planet like Mars, happens to be transiting through Jupiter's specific Veda point, the good effect is completely blocked.
Oh, wow. So I'm picturing it like this. Jupiter is standing right in front of me trying to hand me a giant check. But Saturn is standing in a completely different room, entirely out of my line of sight, pulling a lever that drops a heavy blast door between me and Jupiter. The luck is there, but I can't receive it because of the obstruction.
That is the exact mechanism. It is a cosmic roadblock. For example, the texts dictate that the sun gives excellent victorious results when transiting the third house from your natal moon. You feel invincible.
Sounds nice.
But the sun's specific Veda point for that position is the ninth house. If any planet is sitting in or transiting the ninth house at that time, the sun's benefit is completely neutralized.
Neutralized.
It means you cannot just look at one lucky planet in isolation. You have to look at the entire 360-degree board simultaneously to see if the network is clear.
That sounds incredibly stressful to navigate. I mean, if you are trying to find a day where the Vaar, the day of the week, is good, the Nakshatra isn't your personal hazard zone, the moon phase is growing, the 10 doshas like Lata and Pada are clear, and absolutely no planets are obstructing your lucky planets through Veda. I have to ask, is there ever a single day that is perfectly clean?
No. And arriving at that specific realization is the profound philosophical graduation point of studying this system.
Really?
Because of the sheer mathematical complexity of tracking 9 planetary bodies, 27 constellations, shifting lunar phases, and dozens of geometric obstruction points, a completely flawless, totally pure moment in time is a mathematical impossibility.
I love this quote from the text you highlighted in the notes. It perfectly encapsulates the absurdity of seeking perfection. It says, even Devrishi Narada, one of the founders of Jyotisha, is still looking for a totally pure Muhurta.
Exactly.
Narada is literally a celestial sage, an immortal being who basically wrote the astrological rulebook, and even he is looking at his cosmic calendar saying, I can't find a perfect Tuesday. Something is always slightly wrong.
It is a vital lesson in humility, realism, and action. The goal of using the Panchanga, the overarching goal of astrology itself, is not to paralyze you. It is not designed to make you sit on the couch terrified to launch your business or leave your house because Saturn is casting a minor shadow or there's a slight Veda obstruction.
Because there's always something.
Exactly. If you demand the perfect moment before you act, you will wait until you die.
So what does this all mean for the listener? How do we practically use a complex system that ultimately tells us the perfect moment doesn't exist?
It means you reframe the objective. The goal is no longer perfection, the goal is risk mitigation. You use the Panchanga to find a good enough moment.
A good enough moment.
You find a window where the major destructive forces, like your seventh hazard Nakshatra or a massive Veda on your ruling planet, are avoided, and the beneficial forces are reasonably strong.
Right.
You pick the best available terrain on the map, but you accept that there will always be minor obstacles, minor doshas, that you will simply have to navigate and overcome using your own grit, your intelligence, and your free will.
It brings us right back to the cow and the peg from the beginning. The tether of free will is never going to give you access to a completely perfect, predator-free meadow of infinite sweetgrass.
Never.
There is always going to be a rock or a thorny patch or a muddy ditch somewhere in your radius. You just use the map to find the best patch of grass available that week, and you deal with the thorns when you step on them.
Precisely. You exercise your free will to maximize the favorable conditions, and you stoically endure the unavoidable minor frictions, thereby exhausting your karmic debts without creating new ones through reckless action. It is a philosophy of informed navigation, not magical avoidance.
Okay, let's unpack this whole journey we have been on today. We started by looking at astrology not as a parlor trick or a magazine column, but as the eyes of ancient Vedic wisdom.
A profound mathematical framework.
A framework designed to let us literally see the mechanics of karma playing out in the physical universe. We broke down the staggering geometry of the Panchanga, the 5 limbs of planetary days, expanding and contracting lunar phases, the 27 constellations,
The micro-timing of Karanas.
and the algebraic yogas that combine to create a deeply personalized daily rhythm.
We examine the mechanical genius of the macro cycles, the 60-year wheel of creation and destruction, the leap months that elegantly prevent the lunar calendar from tearing away from the solar season.
And the simple mental arithmetic that proves this system was designed to be accessible to anyone willing to learn it. We saw how an emperor color-coordinated his wardrobe and organized his military based on the elements of the week, and how ancient farmers used a single, hyper-specific day in June to physically test seeds and predict 4 months of rain.
Incredible stuff.
And finally, we looked at how the system approaches the absolute highest stakes of human life, scoring the biological and psychological compatibility of a marriage, and trying to find the right moment to act, only to realize that the ultimate lesson of the Panchanga is that perfection is an illusion, and skillful navigation is everything.
Which brings us to a final, crucial reflection on the nature of karma and time itself.
Let's hear it.
If the Panchanga is essentially mapping the cosmic weather, it means that time is not an empty container. Time is the ultimate, inescapable record keeper of our actions. The text suggests that our present condition, the weather we are experiencing today, is simply the harvested seed of our own past actions.
We are just eating the crop we planted seasons ago.
Exactly. So the next time you face an inexplicable, frustrating delay that completely ruins your perfectly laid plans, or conversely, you experience a sudden, unearned stroke of massive luck that changes your life, ask yourself this.
Okay.
Is this just random, chaotic, meaningless chance? Or are you simply experiencing the highly specific, mathematically precise weather system of your own past actions finally coming to fruition? When it rains on your parade, are you standing in a storm of your own making?
That is a heavy, incredible thought to chew on. You now have the foundational tools to look up at the sky, understand the 5 moving limbs of time, and start reading the signs for yourself. Figure out your birth nakshatra, check where the moon is before you pick a fight, and maybe try scheduling your next big creative communicative pitch on a Wednesday.
The map has been drawn for thousands of years. How you choose to navigate the terrain of your life is entirely up to you.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Time isn't just a ticking clock, it's a beautifully complex, textured landscape. Get out there, find your radius, and learn to read the weather.